So Abel's a great farmer in adventure and event territory. How about arena? Let's find out.
7k dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be testing Mythical Weekend Abel in arena, and I finally got him to level 50 at the expense of about 9,000 rubies. Okay, I'm going through his gear first, okay, and the team I'm using, as you can see, is there. It's a little crazy. We'll talk about it during the matches. For Abel, I've given him double speed. There's no set effect going on here, okay, even though you see Storm and Old Blessing and so many things, but none are complete. Double counter because he is almost the best counter in arena right now, I believe. Okay, lifesteal with survive 1 HP, effect attack and counter rate increase. His counter is extremely high. Okay, I made it so because I actually somehow ended up in Supreme overnight, and I faced a lot of antis, and anti reduces counter rate a lot. Okay, too much, so that I kind of just decided to give him that. Previously I was using counter rate damage increase. Magic attack increase so that he can counter harder. I'm not using a magic team and I'm not using Ryonji in this case, so you really want his magic attack to be a lot higher. For his accessory, I've given him Guardian Ring so to protect him because he's actually really frail, and that's extremely bad for a counter unit. Okay, double Isabela's illusion as well as purification so that he won't be stuck in status. And the resistances I gave him are actually poison resist, blind resist, so that he can efficiently counter well without taking damage, and also sleep because his attack does go up pretty high. So I want him to be sleep resistant against Yonhee. And also for his fighter soul, I actually given him more defensive ones. If I give him more offensive ones, he probably could hit a little harder. And he also has a limited trait that allows him to deal more damage onto enemies that overall receive less damage. So this allows me to hit enemies like Anti and Judas much better. Okay, not Judas, Anti, okay, and Rangrid as well. So with the equipment out of the way, we can finally focus on the battles. If you do like this format for the arena videos, do let me know in the comments as well. I also am very lucky to be able to get one more copy of Anti from the gacha. So she's 44 now with the dimensional attack. So the concept of this team is to make use of Abel's 3-man counter and deal damage from the bleed from Eve, from Fi's Agnes Flame, and from the dimensional attack from Anti. Now this is a pretty crazy comp, to be honest, because later on there will be a match where you will see the damage dealt when he counters, okay, on top of his own counter. So the Agnes Flame is extremely efficient. The reason why I put her at the back, okay, I put Fi at the back, is so that her Agnes Flame can be boosted even more. I realized that my Agnes Flame is actually not as much as other players, maybe because I'm not running an offensive setup. Now if you run an offensive setup, you will see Agnes Flame possibly hitting up to 30,000. Okay, you saw that was a lot of damage from the counter itself. Offensive teams don't really have that much of a bulk. Okay, so when Abel counters, it can be extremely hard, and if you couple that with the Agnes Flame, you're talking about at least, 24,000 Agnes Flame damage on top of another maybe 10,000 from his counters, or even more depending on the number you see, because sometimes they may block, okay, they won't block effect attacks, but they may actually somehow have a lot of bulk and they will reduce a lot of damage from the effect attack, because I've seen Abel almost do nothing at all sometimes. Yeah, so he can hit pretty hard. He can also, be really weak sometimes. I really don't know what's going on with him. He doesn't use any skills here, okay? So apart from his passive that allows him to hit 3 targets with basic attack, he also provides immunity to reflect for 10 turns. He also decreases defense when the enemy has a defensive type enemy. Okay, he decreases defense of all enemies by 30%. Now if you think about it, it's really out to counter Rudy, and if the enemy doesn't have Rudy, he's pretty much left with one useful line of passive, and that is to attack 3 enemies on basic attack. Right? Because if your enemy doesn't have Rudy, then he won't proc the other 2. I mean, the other 2 are not really useful. So there's a Rudy in this case, which means he will reduce the defense of all the enemies by 30%, which is pretty efficient, okay, I have to say. It will help you wreck them a lot. I won't say a lot, but a little easier, because ultimately Rudy does increase defense up to 100% for himself and 50% for the allies. So there is still some defense buff on the enemy side. Okay, so thankfully my I did cast the Agnes Flame, yeah. So that's pretty good. Do take note that my Phi and my NT both have Reset Awaken skill accessory, so they are able to cast skill nullification again. I realize it's quite toxic. Okay, with NT with Reset accessory is crazy. So for Abel, his top skill also stuns, removes shields, and does buff block. It does okay damage. For his bottom skill, he increases crit rate and crit damage of all allies. So at this point, he's gonna counter Rudy. I need you guys to take a look at this moment, the damage. I froze it, you see 30,000, and on top of that 22,000 Agnes Flame. So that's 50,000 fixed damage with the counter, proccing on 3 enemies every time he counters. That is how gross it can be. So this team is actually pretty sick, and my win rate was actually good if you saw much earlier in the video, right? So this is a very fun team actually, not relying on the typical 3-man offensive, 3-man magic. So if you like a fun team to try, you can actually go for this. But of course you do want to have an NT that is level 44 to make the full use of Abel's counter ability. So in this case, we're not really relying on Abel's powers himself, his own damage. We're actually relying on his ability to counter 3 enemies and proc the passive damage. So that was his awaken skill. He actually managed to kill. It actually does pretty good damage. He has defense offset there. Okay, so he does land a chain attack, and that's pretty good. The chain attack is also only available if you unlock his exclusive item. And unfortunately, yeah, as I said, he is actually very frail for Universal Hero. So you really have to take note, and that's why I gave him the Guardian Ring so that he will survive at least 3 turns. If you gave him the Willful Ring, he may be one shot, and the Willful Ring will proc, and by turn 2 he may be gone. Just saying, okay? Just saying. Fortunately, we have a very annoying enemy here to deal with, and that is Judas. He's still pretty rampant despite the fear immunity from Anti. Firstly, because not many people have Anti, and also because Judas himself has a very annoying passive that actually decreases recovery rate. And in the context of the current meta, I think that is extremely important because you have Rudy, you have Clemith, and you have Lifesteal from Eve. So all these coupled together, you know, you can heal a lot. So Judas is still pretty important. Unfortunately, in this match, the enemy goes first with both basic attack and skill, which I find extremely annoying because, you know, you can set up everything properly, you can have the best set for your speed leader, but things like that can still happen, and it's not that good. Really not that good. So one way I've thought about to counter Abel, yeah, I really thought of counters for him, is really to give your heroes hide, because if your heroes are hiding, he will not be able to counter them. So that's the most efficient way to avoid being over damaged by Abel. Okay. Another thing probably would be to lifesteal yourself to heal a lot. Yeah. And beyond that, I don't think there's much ways because his utility only comes in with the attack 3 enemies on basic attack. And beyond that, I don't see that, you know, he's really that useful, to be honest. A lot of times he has been disappointing for me, and that is why I strive to get him to level 50 before I make a video, because I feel that at level 44 his actual potential isn't shown. Okay, at level 50 you unlock your fighter's soul, which gives you the opportunity to use status effect cast rate increase, and also get more block rate and counter rate if you need, right? So he's using his awaken skill again. It's okay, right, the damage? It looks like it's being blocked because he doesn't have any crit and lethal multipliers, but it's okay. And now there's a lot of speed attacks, effect attacks going on. His effect attack is extremely painful, and it gives me Korea meta vibes, to be honest. Yeah, tons of damage right there. And I don't have the Agnes Flame casted as well, so that's pretty unfortunate. The whole idea of the team is really to land the Agnes Flame and let him counter his way through. So what was I saying? I was talking about Fighter's Soul, right? So the reason why at level 44 he's very difficult to be used is because the choices of teams you can use him in is limited, right? When you put him at level 50, you can even use him in death team, which I did not try because my death equipment is actually absolutely bad. Okay, but if you do have a death team ready, you can actually try the death team with him, and then you boost his status cast rate so that he has a very high possibility to land death. So this is another team that I've tried. This is probably the team that most of the top players are also using, and that is to use Judas. Overall it's a magic team, okay, and with Judas. Previously I was not using any combination of heroes, but I was relying on rank grade and 5, okay. So the idea behind this current team is, of course, Judas is there to increase damage dealt. It's more offensive by nature, for sure. You will see that Abel's effect attack is a lot better in terms of damage here, because you also have I also have Yonji. Okay, so Yonji boosts magic attack, Judas increases damage down to the enemies, and then you have Yonhee who reduces the defense by 2000 on the front line. So there's actually a lot of support in terms of how Abel's damage can be boosted. As you can see here, even his bottom skill hit pretty high. Usually it doesn't even hit that hard. Okay, usually I don't even see that much damage. You can see, there you go. Effect attack hits super hard. Maybe because there was I'm not sure if Anti's debuff is still present, but regardless, you know, he's super efficient in clearing the field if you give him ample magic attack. Okay, I repeat that. He really needs the power to be able to do damage like that. Without it, it's very difficult. Really very difficult. That was very good damage from his awakened skill as well. So yeah, you have to consider what kind of team you want to run him with. That said, is he a must to have on the team? Is he a meta changer? I won't think so. Okay, honestly I don't think so. Even with his passive that specifically targets against Rudy, because unless we have more defensive type enemies coming up. But currently I don't think so. In fact, Rudy, and I face heal teams and tank teams. Okay, Abel doesn't make a difference there, because the power they have in terms of defensive capabilities and in terms of healing is just far too great for me to break through. Okay. Over here, I think I'm facing an offensive team. Yeah. No doubt it's quite tricky. I'm always a little fearful of offensive teams, because I don't know, the damage is just so ridiculous, especially with rank grade. And you need to note that rank grade's buff for offensive teams is extremely significant right now, especially if you're not running buffers on the magic team. Yeah, there's no way to buff Abel's magic attack. I mean, he still does very good damage, but that's definitely thanks to, you know, Yonhee's debuff down, Judas' increased damage, and Yonji, right? So it's all because of these factors. But him alone, if you saw, compared to the previous match, right, he doesn't do that much damage on his own. Yeah. So you do need the support for him to be very good, which, you know, may not be the best scenario, because he is not exactly a super strong hero, and this Fenrir conveniently just destroys me, which is why I really hate going up against offensive teams. So this is kind of like a similar team. This was the meta team before Abel came along. This was one of the top teams used. It's primarily a tank-based team. Yeah, primarily a tank-based team. Even though there are 3 magic units, because the bulk there. Okay, I think if they have rank grade over maybe Scoot, then it's more tank. But now it's still a semi-magic tank. Yeah, somewhat. So my overall thoughts of Abel are that, you know, he is a decent hero for sure. He's very fun to use, and he does deal pretty good damage when you build him right. But I don't think he is a meta changer. Okay, I don't think he's a meta changer. So do you really want to pull for him? You know, it's completely up to you. he will make farming efficient for sure in your territory 15, and he will also give you a much easier time in event territory, you know, if we do even need something to make that fun. Or you do enjoy looking at counter damage from him like that, you know, it's all pretty good. Okay, but you do need to build him really well, and that's my disclaimer for you guys in this video. You realize that in the clips that I have put in this video, he doesn't die that easily, but that's not exactly the case because he will die pretty easily if you don't gear him well. Okay, he does have low HP as well because he's on counter build. Okay, so I hope this video helped, and if it did, do give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Big shout out to my channel members, DMD Phoenix and Reggie Bautista for the support. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much, and see you!